Andrew Berry and company make another wager, move back into round one, and inside FirstEnergy Stadium along the shores of the greatest of the Great Lakes. Browns fans energized and optimistic for 2022 and beyond. The countdown is on. Welcome into the Browns Countdown Draft Special. I'm News 5 sports anchor Jon Doss, alongside the man who has had many titles in his time with the Cleveland Browns. My favorite is FirstEnergy Stadium hype man in the pregame. He's Browns senior media broadcaster Nathan Zegura. And Nathan, gone are the days that the NFL Draft is a seasoned savior for this organization under Andrew Berry and company. It is now about supplementing what is already one of the best rosters in the NFL.
Yeah, you're exactly right. In the past, it was a time for Browns fans to see if they could find their savior, find that quarterback. Well, the Browns have made a move already this offseason to do just that. I know we'll discuss that later on, but it's about finding some pieces to fit into a very talented roster so that this team has an opportunity to make a deep run in 2022.
Night one of the NFL Draft is a night of 32. Congratulations. Before we get started, I want to go with numbers 33 and 34. The big news yesterday that the Browns announced Nathan Zegura will step up into the broadcast booth alongside Jim Donovan and fill the void left by the recently retired Browns legend Doug Deacon. Not just that, our good buddy, another member of the Countdown crew, Gerard Cherry, will move on to the sideline reporting. Nathan, congratulations. It is well-deserved, and I know it is an opportunity you will not take for granted.
No, thank you very much. And it's a dream come true, and nobody can fill the void that was left by Doug Deacon, the absolute legend. But I'm going to do my best to kind of add to that broadcast and compliment the great Jim Donovan. The best part is I could just stay out of the way, be a little accoutrement on the side there, and let Jimmy D do what he does best. It'll be fun to have Gerard there. Used to working with him on Countdown and the radio, and now we get to do it in the broadcast. But thank you very much for that. It really is a special day for me and my family.
Accoutrement. You better get that in a radio broadcast.
It's in the press release. Let's go.
It better be.
Yes, sir.
I can speak for all of us in the Countdown crew. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know I can speak for you when I say we are ecstatic to welcome in the third member of our team.
Absolutely.
You know her for her wall-to-wall coverage of the AAFC North on the NFL Network. But good news, Cleveland, we get Aditi Kinkhabwala all to ourselves tonight. Aditi is live at the cross-country mortgage campus in Berea. And Aditi, whether or not this team has a pick here in round one, we know Andrew Berry and company will be busy back at the facility.
There is still a little bit of bustle here, and I'll tell you that Andrew Berry's family came to visit him. His kids might be whispering in his ear saying, "Dad, trade, trade, trade." Now, of course, as we heard him say, it is probably unlikely that the Browns move back up into the first round. But hey, that doesn't mean that they won't be fielding phone calls today, because remember, Baker Mayfield is indeed a desirable quarterback in the NFL right now. And I can tell you this, there are certainly some teams that have been checking him out, that have been watching tape on him. I, in fact, spoke to a front office executive just earlier today on one of those teams who said he thinks Baker Mayfield might be better than any of the quarterbacks in this draft. So that's certainly something to pay attention to. And then, of course, the Browns are paying attention to what the Ravens do. They're paying attention to whether the Steelers could be taking a quarterback. And they, of course, want to know what the AFC champion Bengals are doing, and if that means trading out of the first round. So, guys, we do have a packed show, as you said. We'll get to talk to Andrew Berry. We'll talk to Kevin Stefanski, and we'll give you whatever color we can give you. And maybe we'll take a break for some Mission Barbecue, because I heard that's what they're serving out here.
That's right, and that's the good stuff, Aditi, and thanks so much for being with us. We're happy to have you aboard here on this team. You mentioned a little bit of bustle there in Berea, and while we don't expect the Browns to move back, what's kind of the scuttlebutt? What are you hearing about this team, where they're maybe looking as we go from, round one into tomorrow and into Friday in those picks, number 44, number 78, number 99?
All right, we will check back in with Aditi
later
in the show. We're going to have her all up and down the show, as we are happy to have Aditi Kinkhabwala with us. But you mentioned it there, no pick in the first round. We'll talk about why they don't have a pick in this year's first round of the NFL Draft and the next two. But this is now the second time in 3 seasons that we've entered this night one without a pick for this organization.
Yeah, and I think, look, Browns fans, if you're saying, oh, man, I'm missing that excitement, that juice having a first round, go to YouTube, put on some Deshaun Watson highlights, and I think you'll be pretty happy with what you see, and I know we'll talk about him more there. But again, this is a team now where the draft, as you mentioned, it's a perfect word. It is supplemental. It is complementary to the roster that has already been assembled, and there's work still to do in free agency. The Browns still have plenty of room under the cap, but this is an opportunity to add pieces to this team to not only help session plan lethal guys.
The likelihood of them trading back into tonight's first round is probably low. Andrew Berry told us last week that it's a low option.
Yeah, I think it's slim to none, honestly. It would be very surprising to see if the Browns move back into the first round. I talked with Andrew Berry on Monday this week, and he was very content to kind of let day one unfold. The Browns will reassess where they're at day two, as I said, getting ready for pick number 44. So I don't expect to see that. Now, could there be trades that happen in the first round that intrigue the Browns or involve the Browns? Maybe. I will see about Baker Mayfield. Because what Aditi said there is right, and I've started to hear a little bit of that buzz as well, that Baker Mayfield is regarded as better than any of the quarterbacks in this draft. And so does that compel somebody to maybe make a move? That's the big thing Browns should be watching for tonight.
And when you're comparing known commodities against the unknown in the NFL draft, the next 3 seasons, we look at Deshaun Watson and say, is that guy worth a number one first-round pick? Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. He's a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League, and he's a guy who leads the NFL in completion percentage in the history of the league, 68.7% for all quarterbacks who have thrown at least 1,500 passes. The last year he was in the league with Houston, he leads the NFL, thrown for over 4,800 yards, 9 yards an attempt, 13 yards a completion, completes 70% of his passes. Deshaun Watson is absolutely elite. And what he is going to enable Kevin Stefanski, and you're talking about Alex Van Pelt and Chad O'Shea and Bill Callahan and Stump Mitchell and Drew Petzing and T.C. McCartney, the architects of this offense, there are no restrictions, there are no limits, and we're going to be able to roll things out that people have not seen the Browns do. RPO game, 11 personnel as a base. This is going to be very exciting when, like I said, if you're worried about not having a first-round pick, put those highlights on. You're going to see a guy who can deliver the football anywhere on the field, into tight windows, and make plays out of structure.
If you're worried about not having a first-round pick, there was a team that just had a championship parade in Los Angeles.
New NFL.
They don't have first-round picks for the next decade and a half because they went out, they got the quarterback they wanted, and they said, you know what, we're going to be okay to lose these picks. When you have that guy, Nathan, it changes everything.
That's the key to the NFL, and you're seeing more and more teams say, you know what, I would rather get a stud than worry about what could be in a first-round pick. John, 8 of the teams in the NFL, a quarter of the teams have half of the first-round picks tonight. There is a league high, historically high, 7 teams that do not have first-round picks tonight. So teams are looking to get these big-time players, and we saw it with Devontae Adams, we saw it with Tyreek Hill, and the Browns with the ultimate coup getting Deshaun Watson, Denver doing the same with Russell Wilson. Teams are concerned about getting stars, and when you get a star at the quarterback position, everything else comes easy.
Professional transition there by you. You mentioned Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Well, the Browns went out and got a pretty big superstar wideout in his own right in Amari Cooper this offseason.
Yeah, and you love what Amari Cooper brings to the team. One of the most elite route runners in the National Football League. And you look at the deal that he got relative to some of these other deals being handed out. The Browns didn't give up much in trade compensation, nor have they given up much in salary. And this is a guy who's been a Pro Bowler, multiple 1,000-yard seasons under his belt. And when you talk to the coaches about Amari Cooper, they love his work ethic and what he brings to this football team. Now, I had a chance to interview him today. First time I've gotten to talk to Amari since he joins the Browns. This guy is all about the work. He's very soft-spoken, in tremendous condition, and he is excited. Already getting on the same page with Deshaun Watson, loving working with Chad O'Shea, talking about how Chad's going to give him the freedom to get to the right spot. He said, look, you can run a slant route 100 different ways. Be there in sync with your quarterback and make plays, and that's what Amari Cooper can do. He can create separation, and that is the key to be a wide receiver at this level.
And of all the offseason moves this team made, the one that puts the biggest smile on your face, keeping the hometown kid Denzel Ward here for a long time.
Yeah, that was a very special one. You get Denzel Ward here. You give him that extension that makes him the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. We'll keep him with the Browns through 2027. And it's kind of a fairy tale, right? You have somebody who grew up here, played his high school football here. Then he goes and plays at the Ohio State University. He is drafted by the Browns 4th overall and has become one of the true elite corners in this game. And I had an opportunity to sit down with him after signing that contract. And the Browns presented him with an iPad, which was for family members, friends, coaches, people whose lives he's impacted with the Make Them Know Your Name Foundation. And he got emotional, and I got emotional just sitting there. This is an unbelievable story. I know his father is smiling down on him, and that's such a tragedy that he's had to go through and overcome to be where he is today. A tip of the cap to Denzel Ward, a consummate pro and a great pillar of this football team. That's what AB does. He locks up the pillars of this team, and he did it with Denzel Ward.
All right, over the course of this weekend, there are a number of new players that the Browns are going to welcome in here to Cleveland. One of the ones that they welcomed in this offseason is going to join us here on set shortly. You're watching the Browns Countdown Draft Special.
My mom from West Lafayette, Indiana. My dad was from Athens. They fell in love. They shortly after that moved to Greece. In the beginning of June of 2014, my father unexpectedly passed away of a heart attack. He was 44. It was really hard on me and my family, my siblings, my mom. From there, we kind of took a family decision to move to the United States. Everyone from my grandfather to my uncles and all my cousins, they've all gone to Purdue. It's like a family thing, you know, that's where my family goes to school. My dad was a sports junkie, loved sports, and always was supporting me in whatever I wanted to do. I think my dad would be extremely proud of me and continue to encourage me, support me, and guide me throughout this journey.
The countdown continues at FirstEnergy Stadium, less than an hour away from round one of the 2022 NFL Draft. Welcome back inside FirstEnergy Stadium. Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, now joined by a special guest, one of the newest additions of this Browns football team, Chase Winovich, and there is no greater way to endear yourself to the home fans than letting them choose your jersey number when you get to town.
That's the best way to do it. They gave me some options whenever I was signing up with the team. I said, you know what, I was a Michigan guy. I could have went to Ohio State. Let me make it up to them. Let me give the people of Ohio specifically the opportunity to pick my jersey number, and they chose 69. The people spoke, and as a man of the people,
you had to know that was a possibility.
Hey, all I'm saying is that anything is possible.
That's right. We're talking about the draft in Vegas. That was the odds-on favorite for the people to select. And look, it looks fantastic here in the 69 right now, Chase. And we're thrilled to have you here. Look, you know what football means in this part of the country. As you said, you played at Michigan. You know what it meant to the Ohio State Buckeyes, that rivalry game that you were a part of. So to come here to Cleveland now and feel the love like I know that you have already, what's it been like just coming in here, getting to be around the team and kind of getting that first experience here and that first taste of Cleveland Browns football?
It's been really great. The team has been super welcoming. The guys have been getting after it in workouts. We've been learning a ton about the game of football, just about like the scheme and the installs. It's been a really smooth process, and guys keep pouring in by the day, so it's been going great.
And you love getting after it. You love working out. I've seen some of the videos our great content teams put out there. And they get at the end, you get a little nod to the camera, a little flex, letting them know, like, yeah, we're getting after it in here. I see you. I see.
Yeah, I love on the field, off the field, it's fun.
And you understand in this city, and I think, Nathan, this is what you're getting at, and we joke about letting the fans choose your jersey number. The fans here in Cleveland are unlike any that you've ever played in front of before. Have you already gotten that sense here?
I have gotten that sense. So one of the first things I did, when I showed up in Cleveland, was watch a video on YouTube about the first 50 years of Cleveland football. And coming from Pittsburgh, being a little brainwashed, just in Pittsburgh Steeler culture, I wasn't quite as familiar with the rich history of the Cleveland Browns. But no, their fans run deep. They're very passionate, and they love this goddamn city.
Yes, they do, and they love this football team, and I know that they are going to love you already. Just having to get a chance to talk to you a few times. You know how to get after the quarterback. 11 sacks in your first 2 seasons. A guy, a former third-round pick here. What's kind of your secret? Describe your style of game. What are they going to see when they see Chase Winovich out on the field?
I mean, I think my MO since I've been playing football as a little kid is just my tenacity and just my relentless pursuit. I think it's one thing to run for a long time. It's one thing to run really hard for a long time and play the way I do. It requires a dedication. It requires a lot of preparation and a commitment to that style of play. Play in, play out. I'm going to attack it every time. And I look forward to taking the field with my teammates and earning their respect and helping us get some wins.
Browns fans are going to like this guy.
There's no doubt. Instant fan favorite.
Win, and they're going to love you.
That's
Chase
right.
Winovich, we appreciate you
It's
being
the most
on with us
important thing.
today.
It's in my name.
That's right.
Welcome to Cleveland. Good luck this year in 2022 and beyond. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, coming up in the show, we hear from head coach Kevin Stefanski one final time before he heads into the war room in Berea. You're watching the Browns Countdown Draft Special.
I was born in Nigeria, lived there till I was 7 years old. My dad's an engineer, my mom's a lawyer. So through my dad's job, we moved over to Scotland. I was playing soccer, basketball, and then when I was 15 years old, I had dreams of going to the next level in America. I was at Blair Academy. Those two sports didn't really work out as well as I thought it would, so I switched over to track and field and ended up winning the 100-meter dash prep state title, which then led people to tell me to play football. Like any new sport, it was very difficult in the beginning to learn, but my first year, I earned 35 scholarships. We chose Michigan because, it's the best of both worlds. You have the top education in the country and the biggest stadium in the country. Third year, we finally got to play. And on top of that, my parents got to come over and watch us beat Ohio State and go on to the Big Ten Championship and beat Iowa. I'm so grateful for my parents. They believed in me as a 15-year-old. They let me go, and they supported me. I owe them everything.
All right, less than 40 minutes away from the opening of the 2022 NFL Draft, which means the Browns brass is batted down in the war room in Berea. Just before Kevin Stefanski went in, he chatted with Aditi Kinkhabwala.
Guys, thanks so much. Well, Kevin, this is your third draft with Andrew Berry now. What is the most fun part of working with him?
Andrew's organized, as you can imagine. So everybody has their roles for this weekend. Everybody's ready. And you never see him sweat. He's ready to sit in that chair and make the decisions. And I think what's so fun about Andrew is he listens to everybody. He takes input from the coaches, from his staff, and then ultimately his call. But you see a guy work. It's no different than watching some of our players on Sunday. You see a guy in his element doing his job.
Okay, but tell us the truth then. Why does he insist on sitting in his office by himself?
I don't think he likes me. I think he's trying to keep me away from him. It's probably smart on his part, so he doesn't have everybody, bearing down on him, telling him what they should do. In my role, I also get a lot of free advice, so I think Andrew's using some space to make sure that he's focused on the task.
Smart man, right?
Absolutely.
So fans would like to say that you could use a wide receiver, you could use an edge rusher, but when you look at this roster, where would you like some more depth, some young depth?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that's what's so exciting about this draft is you look at all these guys, you're like, man, I'd love to have that guy on this team. I'd love to have this guy at that position. So, yeah, I think there's always positions that you go into it and you say we would like to address those, but you absolutely have to stay true to your board. You have to stay true to your process. I think that's what we're so focused on. I think that's what Andrew does a great job of understanding what we'd like to address, but then making sure that as this board shakes out, which we can't predict, we got to be ready to pivot.
That was a lot of words without a specific answer.
I like those positions.
All right, how about these positions? Quarterback, number one wide receiver. I know you can't get out on the field with these guys, but you do have a new quarterback. You do have a number one wide receiver. What are Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper telling you about their work so far?
Yeah, they've done a great job so far. Like you mentioned, I can't watch yet, but we'll get out there on the field together next week, which I'm looking forward to. Everything I've heard, they've done great out here on the field throwing. And that's really a small part of it. Another big part of it is just being in this building together, being in meetings together, hanging out outside of this campus, eating breakfast and lunch together. So a lot of this is a team building exercise. We'll get to football. We have OTAs, we have mini camp, and of course we'll have training camp. But I think the guys are doing a great job of coming together as a team.
All right, great. Thank you for the time, and best of luck tonight.
Thanks, Dee.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you, Aditi. Back here at FirstEnergy Stadium, Jon Doss with Nathan Zegura. Offense we feel pretty good about. There is one position, maybe position of need, that we'll chat about here shortly. Defensively, Browns got to talk about what they're doing opposite Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big questions facing this team still right now for the Cleveland Browns. Who will that starter be opposite Myles Garrett? And I think there's a lot of optimism that Jadeveon Clowney will be back with the Browns coming off of his 9-sack season a year ago where he played phenomenal football. He wants to come back. The Browns would like him to come back, so I'd expect to see that happen. But in this draft, the Browns certainly can look at that position and as early as pick number 44.
And it's a guy that you have talked a lot about. It's a guy that we just saw David Ojabo.
Yeah, I love David Ojabo out of Michigan. 11 sacks last year, and this is a guy who absolutely can get after the quarterback. You see his speed running down, chasing, and he's somebody who is just scratching the tip of the iceberg, as it were, in terms of his football talent. Now, suffered a torn Achilles at his pro day, so this year will be a redshirt year, which makes sense for the Browns. If you get Clowney back, then you got Chase Winovich, because this is a top 15 talent. And if Andrew Berry's done anything in his 2 years as GM, he gets first-rounders in the second round. He did it with Grant Delpit, and he did it with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Let's talk about one more guy from the Big Ten to the Pac-12. Drake Jackson out of USC is a guy you like.
Yeah, Drake Jackson, somebody to keep an eye on. Tremendous athlete, 6'3", 273. He can play and get after the quarterback, but also work some at the outside linebacker. So you haven't really seen him as that 4-3 defensive end in college, but a lot of upside. And Logan Hall out of Houston, another guy who has inside-outside versatility, but it sounds like he's somebody who might end up going late in the first round, John.
All right, coming up after the break, we talk more with Nathan and Aditi about this division, the AFC North. We go around it next on the Browns Countdown Draft Special.
Aaron Hope, she's the biggest Liberty fan, teenage girl. She's been through like 20 surgeries or something like that. And she's just trying to get her voice back right. She was getting another surgery, and I ended up texting her like I was praying for her. We just clicked after that. We had played Connect for her. She taught me how to play bananagrams. I just want her to keep her happy just because from outside looking in, she goes through so much, and we don't even appreciate sometimes the blessings that we have in our own lives, and we overlook them, and I just wanted to impact her positively. Hey, appreciate you. We text every day, me and Erin. She sends me all these funny memes and stuff, and she sent me this video today. I'm so grateful for it. I love you, I miss you, and I'm so proud of you too.
Well, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell should be taking that stage in Las Vegas in less than 30 minutes to open up the 2022 NFL Draft. Welcome back into the Browns Countdown. Jon Doss with Nathan Zegura. And I got to say, we had a lot of fun when the NFL Draft was here in Cleveland last year. Vegas is another. I mean, that's another thing.
Yeah, Cleveland's wonderful, but it's not Vegas, baby.
All right, let's bring back the third member of our team, Aditi Kinkhabwala, and we're going to go around the AFC North. This is, of course, her bread and butter. And Aditi, the one team in this division that may be circling quarterback this weekend is Pittsburgh.
Well, that's certainly the case, and here's what I can tell you. Head coach Mike Tomlin, GM Kevin Colbert, and owner Art Rooney have sequestered themselves. The meeting room has suddenly gotten very, very small as these three men decide which way are they going to go. Now, we know that the Steelers brought in 7 quarterbacks for visits. That Colbert and Tomlin went to everybody's pro day. They were at the Senior Bowl. They were examining the quarterbacks at the Combine. The question here is this preparation for next year? Because, of course, the Steelers haven't been through this process in 18 years. As GM Kevin Colbert said, this wasn't a position when Ben Roethlisberger was here that the Steelers spent a lot of time on. Or is this that the Steelers really truly feel that their heir apparent is available in this draft? Now, let's not forget that the Steelers did indeed sign Mitch Trubisky. I can tell you that his teammates right now love him, that he has really been working hard with offensive coordinator Matt Canada, and that Mike Tomlin feels with a dominant defense and a great run game, he could potentially win without an upper-tier quarterback. Of course, the question is, do they believe Malik Willis is an upper-tier quarterback? Do they believe Kenny Pickett is an upper-tier quarterback? And will they have to move up for either of those young men?
Well, Aditi, you know the answer to this, and you got to forgive us here in Cleveland. Nobody's going to feel pity for the Pittsburgh Steelers for having to make a decision on the quarterback for the first time in 2 decades.
Certainly.
Well, that's, of course, understandable.
Yes, indeed it is, Aditi. All right, I want to talk about another quarterback, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. The guy was the MVP a couple of years ago. Last year, Baltimore had a lot of injuries, including to Lamar Jackson. There's no doubt he is an elite player. But my question to you, Aditi, is it a little weird that nothing is done there? I know he's his own agent, but that they have not come to any type of a long-term deal. And with wild trades, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson happening, a team like the Eagles, for example, with multiple firsts this year and the next, could somebody call up the Ravens and say, is Lamar the long-term guy, or can we take him off of your hands?
Nathan, that sounds like a Browns fan wishing. That sounds like wishful thinking right there. I'm
She's
sorry.
catching on.
No, you're right. This is indeed an unusual circumstance, and much of that is because Lamar Jackson does represent himself. And look, Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta has been on the record multiple times saying that the Ravens are working with Lamar Jackson's timeline, that this is about when he feels the urgency to make a deal get done. And you know what? Right now, Lamar Jackson isn't necessarily feeling that. I talked to one of his teammates just the other day who said that all Jackson talks about is winning a Super Bowl. And that certainly is consistent with the young man that we've been around the last few years. The Ravens are indeed hoping to get healthy baddies back. They had nearly 20 key players on IR a year ago, and yet they still almost got into the playoffs. Now, the thing with the Ravens, though, picking in the top 15 for just the second time under John Harbaugh, they could potentially be looking to move back. If there is a run on wide receivers, then that means some of the players that the Ravens are particularly interested in, let's say some corners, let's say some edge rushers, could fall. And Eric DeCosta, he's somebody that could be making some trades tonight.
Aditi, and look, maybe Lamar is as smart as he is talented, because as a quarterback, the longer you wait to do your deal, the higher the floor becomes and the more money you can get. Now, one team that has zero questions at quarterback, the defending AFC champions, the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. They've already done a ton of work this offseason to shore up that offensive line, clearly their biggest need. So what is the need as they go into the draft? Where could the Bengals be looking?
You're right. Look, Alex Kappa, Ted Karras, Lael Collins, Duke Tobin went to work. As much as head coach Zach Taylor said, we had 2,000-yard receivers, we had a 1,000-yard rusher, our offensive line wasn't that terrible. The hits that Joe Burrow took, that offensive line definitely needed some shoring up. So now where do the Bengals have an area of need? Definitely at cornerback. Even though Eli Apple is back, I can tell you that the Bengals would like a young player to potentially push him and to take over that starting spot. But by drafting at number 31, the Bengals could indeed be, and I'll use the word that Tobin used, flexible, and trade that pick tonight as well, and look to move back with a few more picks in the middle rounds, where this draft, guys, is in fact very, very deep. As we know about this draft, there's not a ton of star power. There's definitely not a lot of star quarterback power, but it is a deep draft. And so if you can get some value in making some trades, then of course that's something that Duke Tobin will look into. I think that this is going to be a really interesting night, guys, because I do expect a lot of movement. I do expect a run on wide receivers, and I think that whether the Browns ultimately pick tonight or not, the division is going to have some interesting maneuvering. Let's call it that.
Nobody is as dialed into this division as Aditi Kinkhabwala. And you know what? We appreciate that Aditi is playing favorites tonight and hanging with us here in Cleveland. Aditi, your secret is safe with us.
That's right.
All right?
We're lucky to have her.
And we're going to continue to put Aditi to work. Coming up after the break, she is the last one to speak with General Manager Andrew Berry before he locks that door in Berea. You're watching the Browns Countdown Draft Special.
I have a very unique family situation, 2 female parents, very loving, very caring, and very supportive parents. Very fortunate that I was able to, have them and to lean on them, and never really had that father figure in my life, but didn't really feel like that's something I needed, didn't feel like I missed out on anything. My parents did a great job of raising me and my siblings. Early on in my life, moving to a small rural community that I was from was very difficult. Not everyone accepted having 2 female parents, but as long as you kind of had each other, that's really all that matters.
Welcome to this family, and we would like to present you with the John Mackey Award.
The John Mackey Award is the award given out to the nation's best tight end. I was very fortunate to win that award. The way that they told me was very special.
Trey, go. You won the Mackey Award.
Coming from them meant so much to me. Very blessed to have them as my parents.
Closing in on the opening of the 2022 NFL Draft, it is Andrew Berry's third as the general manager in Cleveland. Just before he went into the war room, he caught up with Aditi.
All right, guys, thank you. AB, no first-round pick, and you did say it's probably unlikely you move up. So how does that affect the approach tonight?
You know, it really doesn't affect the approach tonight very much. We'll still be monitoring the board. We'll still be monitoring how the players come off. And if any unexpected opportunities present themselves, we'll be ready to pounce at the appropriate time. So we're locked in for the next 3 days.
You know that you've often said that you have no idea what tomorrow's need will be, so you can't draft for need. But there is a little bit of a hole at wide receiver on this team right now. When you look at these wide receivers, what are the traits that really appeal to you? What are you looking for?
You know, the beautiful thing with the receiver position is productive players come in all different shapes and sizes. You know, I think that we, like the rest of the league, we always love guys who are fast and can separate, you know, but also size guys who can win in contested spaces. They're also effective in this offense. So really for us, it's less about a specific skill set and more about the quality of the player.
Okay, so no matter what happens over these 3 days, obviously the biggest move that this team made is in getting Deshaun Watson. Have you been given any indication from the league when it will wrap up its investigation, and what are your expectations on his availability this fall?
You know, no update from our perspective on that front. You know, as we've mentioned before, we'll continue to fully cooperate with the league's investigation. You know, they have their own timeline in terms of you know, when that'll be finished, and you know, we'll deal with it at that point.
Okay, another thing to deal with, however, is Baker Mayfield. His name obviously has come up quite a bit as potentially being a piece of trade bait. How do you see that playing out, and could this be the weekend that you say, here's to a new start?
Yeah, I think anything's possible. You know, with Baker's situation, it remains fluid. We'll deal with it day to day, and you know, as circumstances change, we'll really adjust accordingly.
Okay, last one. Kevin Stefanski told us that you don't like him, and that's why you sit by yourself tonight. Is that really the truth?
Don't tell his wife Michelle that, but there is a kernel of truth. No, I'm kidding. I love Kevin. You know, our draft setup, we've just found a lot of success over the past 2 years. We just decided to keep it the same this upcoming draft. So.
All right, well, guys, just so you know, AB has brought some extra scouts in tonight. His kids are here to offer their input. He doesn't want Kevin Stefanski's, but he'll take the kids' input.
Well, Aditi, you said we needed receivers. How are we doing over there?
Can we zoom in there?
Well, Andrew Berry is the youngest general manager in the NFL. He might get replaced very shortly by one of those kids running around behind him.
Well, they'd have great training and tutelage in their household.
And we know Andrew Berry, and we know how he conducts himself. That would be the attitude he would have if he had the #1 overall pick. Not even 44th overall. That's his temperament.
You know why? Because all the work has been done, all the preparation is put in. They have gone through scenario after scenario after scenario in preparation for this draft, even though they only have pick number 44. If they had the first pick, it would be the same thing. They know exactly what they were going to do. They are prepared for any scenario that unfolds. Now, last year, despite their millions of simulations, they didn't have a scenario that saw them getting both Greg Newsome and JOK. So sometimes reality can be better than the simulation, and they're going to hope that something like that happens again this year.
All right, so in any of these simulations, do the Browns trade up? Do they stay at second? Do they go after a wide receiver?
Yeah, I think that's highly likely. Wide receiver is a huge position of need for this team, and I think it'll be a combination of in this draft and in free agency after this draft. The Browns want to add somebody on the outside who can stretch the field vertically, or somebody in the slot, and that can come in either direction, right? That can happen in the draft or in free agency after the draft. But wide receiver, a critical position for this football team. Now you've got Deshaun Watson, you've got Amari Cooper, but you want to give him the weapons out wide.
All right, let's go down a list of some of the guys that you like out of Georgia, George Pickens.
You know, George Pickens is the ultimate talent, maybe one of the 5 most talented receivers in this class, coming out of Georgia. He is electric, 6'3", 195. Now, he did tear his ACL in 2021, but he is back from that. And he's somebody, though, when you look at him, you say, what's a prototypical #1 receiver look like? It looks like George Pickens. Comparisons to A.J. Green, who came out of Georgia. You see his ability in contested catch situations, but there are some maturity questions about him. And right now, there are some red flags with Pickens. So he's a guy that might be there at 44, but it would not surprise me that even if he was, despite his talent, that the Browns probably wouldn't call his name. I don't know if he fits the profile.
All right, pass catcher down in Cincinnati, Alec Pierce.
I like this kid quite a bit. 6'3", he runs a 4.4 40. He can jump out of the building with a 40-inch vertical jump. And so Alec Pierce is one of those guys that can develop into your true X receiver. He can be that outside #1 to stretch the field, complementing Amari Cooper, working kind of underneath him in the intermediate game. I think Alec Pierce, if the Browns go edge first, would be a top target for this organization on day 2 at pick number 78. I think they'd even move up a little bit in the 3rd round to get him. I like him a lot.
You don't often hear North Dakota State on draft weekend, but you might. You might this weekend, and who knows, maybe it'll be for the Browns.
If there's been a guy that's been considered the fastest riser at the wide receiver position in this draft, it's Christian Watson, because he put on an absolute show at the NFL Combine. When you talk about a guy who is 6'4", 210 pounds, and can run a 4.36 40, you're talking about somebody that defenses have to account for. He averaged 20.4 yards per catch for his career at North Dakota State. And while you see this field, you see these videos, you're saying he should absolutely dominate that competition, and at times he did. He is a little bit of a project, but he could ultimately end up being the best receiver in this draft. He has that size, that speed, that combo. The Browns did have Watson for a 30 visit, that was reported, so they are interested, but I don't know if he makes it after the 1st round. If he does get out of the 1st round, he's somebody that if Andrew Berry were looking to move up in that 2nd round, he's somebody that I think would be a prime target.
The cupboard is not completely bare. We know Odell Beckham Jr. is gone, Jarvis Landry's gone, Rashard Higgins is gone. You got Amari Cooper. Donovan Peoples-Jones had himself a 2nd season last year.
There is no bigger fan of Donovan Peoples-Jones on the planet than this guy right here. Career year last year, 597 yards, over 17 yards a catch. DPJ is going to continue to get better, and I think Deshaun Watson is going to unlock him even further. I'm with you. DPJ going to play a big role, and he's going to join us.
I was going to say, and Nathan didn't just say that because Donovan's standing just a couple of feet away. Coming up after the break, Donovan Peoples-Jones joins us here on the Browns Countdown Draft Special.
Favorite hobby I would say is really hog hunting. You round up your little crew of friends. You got your pack of dogs. You go out in the woods, you're riding side by side, four-wheelers, and you're just going out having a good time. And once you release the dogs, they go out, and they find the hogs. It was a time where, we were standing around the hog and, the sucker kind of got loose and, started charging us, and we all just climbed up trees. Just my adrenaline, like my thrill, just running out there through the woods, just having fun.
Boy, it don't get no better than this.
Less than 10 minutes to go on the kickoff of this 2022 NFL Draft. Andrew Berry and company are chomping at the bit to get this thing started. Welcome back into FirstEnergy Stadium now. Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, and we had to turn the cameras down a little bit because we're joined by his special guest, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And that chain, I wasn't quite sure how that was going to do in the lights. We had to turn those cameras down.
Look at that DPJ chain. That's electric.
Donovan, can you even believe that your draft day was already 2 years ago?
Yeah. No, I can't. It's been a long ride, but I've learned a lot throughout the process, and can't believe I'm going into year 3, and I'm so excited to be going into year 3.
Coming off of a career year, almost 600 yards, again over 17 yards a catch out there, making big plays. What kind of helped you take that next step last year? And I think you got another big one coming this season, but what was kind of the key to kind of that step, and what are you working on right now?
Really just the offseason, having time to prepare the way I wanted to, having time to kind of capitalize off of what I didn't capitalize off of the year before. And I feel like the same thing with this year, what areas did I do good in last year? What areas did I not do good in last year? How can I grow? How can I develop?
You've had the opportunity to come in your young career and be in a wide receiver room with Odell Beckham Jr., with Jarvis Landry, and now with Amari Cooper, considered by many to be one of the best route runners in the NFL. You got to learn from those guys now, Amari. What has kind of that bond been like for you already, and what are some of the secrets maybe he's already started to share with you? See, I talked to him earlier today. He said, it's my responsibility to help these younger guys if they have questions.
It's been good. He's a great guy, very humble guy, very quiet guy, but definitely very smart. He has a lot of knowledge. Everything that he's said to me has been, positive, impactful, and something that I can take and use for me.
Chase Winovich said that he wanted to endear himself as a Michigan man here in Ohio. That's why he did the poll for his jersey. Can we start a poll for you right now, or are you tied into number 11?
I love number 11. I love
He's
number 11.
one of one.
Yes, sir.
That's my guy.
All right, he's sticking with 11. Donovan, we really appreciate you, man. Good luck this coming year.
Yes,
okay?
Thank
All
you,
right,
guys.
coming up after the break, we get Nathan and Aditi's final thoughts just moments away from the start of this 2022 NFL Draft.
I'm Big Ocho. So it gotta be the name of a big sandwich, you know? I got the Big Ocho sandwiches at Brookshire Brothers in College Station, Texas. It started off with ham, turkey, lettuce, tomatoes with bacon on it, with pepper jack cheese and American cheese as well. I recommend personally that you put mayo on it. I did have a few coaches try the Big Ocho. They all say they love it. The Big Ocho, coming to a shop near you.
All right, now we're just moments away. You're looking live at that draft stage in Las Vegas, Nevada, the site of this 2022 NFL Draft. Welcome back into the Browns Countdown Draft Special. Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, Aditi Kinkhabwala back in Berea at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. All right, Aditi, are they moving up or are we waiting till tomorrow?
I think it is probably most likely that that first pick you'll see the Browns make is indeed at 44 tomorrow. But, you know, anything is possible. That is what Andrew Berry said. So let's not be totally let's not be totally closed to the idea that the Browns could potentially be doing something. I don't necessarily think that it's likely. As we know, the Browns don't have a first-round pick this year, next year, or the following year. They're not going to be looking to give up that much capital, especially when there aren't necessarily any glaring holes on this roster right now. And of course, you would like to see the Browns get another edge rusher. You would like to see the Browns beef up that wide receiver room. But there can also be a lot of activity, especially on the veteran market, after the draft. So again, it'll be a few interesting days for the Browns. Maybe not an interesting night, but a few interesting days, guys.
All right, Aditi, we've loved having you. Let's do this again sometime in the near future, I hope. That's Aditi Kinkhabwala. Nathan, it sounds like we're going to wait until tomorrow. But Andrew Berry, he's pretty good on day 2.
He's great on day 2. We've gotten Grant Delpit plus Nick Harris year 1. We get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah last year. Look for him to make a big move. And keep an eye on a kicker late in this draft, John.
That's it for us. Enjoy the draft here on News 5.